Back in 1948, the Northrop X-4 Bantam was like the underdog at California's Muroc Air Force Base. Amidst the aerial titans like the rocket-powered X-1 and X-2, and the flashy yet somewhat impractical Douglas X-3 Stiletto, the X-4 struggled to make its mark. It felt like the lightweight of the research aircraft world. While its Mach-busting peers grabbed the spotlight, the X-4 was often overlooked. Then came the whispers of the swing-wing X-5's arrival, suggesting a massive leap forward. Tailless designs, passionately pursued by Northrop and Lippisch, were especially enticing for those chasing supersonic dreams. As the X-5 readied itself for the limelight, the X-4, nerdy and notably tailless, had its moment of reckoning. The air buzzed with anticipation, yet the odds weren't in favor of this little aircraft. It was gearing up to attempt something monumental, shattering the sound barrier. After the Second World War, the quest for technological dominance soared to new heights. In the 1940s, a groundbreaking concept emerged from the minds of aeronautical engineers, ditching horizontal stabilizers to tackle stability issues at transonic speeds. The theory was that shockwaves bouncing between the wing and stabilizers were the main troublemakers. This led to the creation of experimental aircraft that shattered conventional norms. The saga kicks off with Nazi Germany's Luftwaffe deploying the rocket-powered Me-163B Comet, a daring semi-tailless design. Across enemy lines, the British had their own ace with the de Havilland DH-108 Swallow, powered by turbojet engines. The core idea was that trimming the empennage would reduce the wetted area and thus drag. Jack Northrop, a visionary in flying wing designs, was a staunch advocate of this principle, likely drawing inspiration from the German pioneer Alexander Lippisch, the brain behind the Messerschmitt Me-163. Following these breakthroughs, the United States Army Air Forces sealed a deal with the Northrop Aircraft Company on June 11, 1946, setting the stage for bold new ventures into the unknown. Northrop, already celebrated for its work on flying wing designs like the N9M, XB-35, and YB-49, was the perfect partner for this daring project. The result was the X-4, a compact marvel outfitted with two Westinghouse J-30 jet engines, a brave pilot, essential instruments, and just enough fuel for a 45-minute flight. Its size was so manageable that maintenance crews could do their jobs without needing ladders or footstools. The cockpit, a true innovation hub, let ground observers witness the audacious pilots who took this unconventional machine to the skies. Furthermore, the X-4 featured split flaps that also served as speed brakes, showcasing the brilliant ingenuity of its designers. In November 1948, the inaugural X-4, marked with serial number 46676, landed at Muroc Air Force Base in sunny California. This trailblazing aircraft took its first flight on December 15, 1948, with Northrop's top test pilot Charles Tucker at the helm. That flight was a significant milestone in aviation history, but in his memoirs, the famed test pilot Chuck Yeager recounted a bumpy ride with his first X-4, pointing out some serious mechanical issues. As a result, the decision was made to ground the troubled aircraft. When winter rains flooded Rogers Dry Lake, X-4 flights were put on pause until April 1949. During this downtime, Walt Williams, the head of the NACA Muroc Flight Test Unit, dubbed the first X-4 a lemon. Meanwhile, the second X-4 proved its mettle, completing 20 flights without a hitch. Yet, the program's journey stretched on until February 1950 before both aircraft were transferred to the Air Force and the NACA. The once promising first X-4 ended up as a source for spare parts. Its journey abruptly halted. But redemption came with the second X-4, carrying the serial number 46677. This resilient aircraft completed 82 missions without a hiccup. The National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics, known as NACA, took the lead in experimental flight research, propelled by the reliable second X-4. Esteemed pilots like Pete Everest, Al Boyd, Richard Johnson, Fred Ascani, Arthur Murray, and Jack Ridley were among those at the controls. It was the year 1950, and the X-4 soared under the watchful eyes of Air Force pilots during a series of NACA flights. Among them was John Griffith, who made history on September 28, 1950, as the first NACA pilot to navigate the X-4 through the skies. As the wings of the X-4 sliced through the air, the experiments began. From late 1950 to May 1951, NACA pilots, particularly Griffith and Scott Crossfield, delved into the nuances of the X-4's pitch sensitivity. The aircraft danced through the air, pushing toward Mach 0.88 and revealing a disconcerting pitch oscillation, much like driving over a washboard road. As speeds climbed higher, a pesky issue known as tucking appeared. making the nose dip. But even more troubling was the aircraft's tendency to hunt in all three axes: yaw, pitch, and roll. This hinted at the bigger problem of inertial coupling. Scott Crossfield, who would later make his mark in the X-15 rocket plane, took control of the X-4 for 32 daring flights. His first taste of the aircraft's quirks came with a serious warning from Walter Williams at NACA, who described it as a wild machine that could be deadly. Crossfield, unafraid, dove into the X-4's mysteries, dealing with the hard-to-control porpoising motion at Mach 0.88. The X-4 had a big flaw. It was inherently unstable. But as innovation swept through the aerospace world, engineers cooked up a plan to tame this unruly beast. Project engineers took the X-4's instability head-on. The fix came from a mix of clever engineering and the simplicity of balsa wood. To boost stability, they decided to thicken the trailing edge of the flap and speed brake. Balsa wood strips, the unsung heroes of this tale, were carefully placed between the flap and speed brake halves, keeping them open at just the right 5-degree angle. The first flight of the newly modified configuration took off on August 20th, 1951, with NACA pilot Walter Jones at the helm. The real proof came in October, when test pilot Scott Crossfield took the X-4 up again. The results were spectacular. Jones praised the improved flight qualities, noting the elimination of pitch control issues up to Mach 0.92. Riding this wave of success, the engineers fine-tuned their work, putting it through a detailed series of landing tests. By carefully adjusting the speed brakes, they changed the lift-to-drag ratio, an essential move to collect crucial data for the upcoming age of rocket-powered planes. This relentless testing went on until October 1951, when fuel leaks in the wing tanks temporarily grounded the X-4. It roared back to life in March 1952. The tests resumed with more NACA pilots, Joe Walker, Stanley Butchard, and George Cooper, each taking their turn in the cockpit, pushing the aircraft's limits further. The success of the thickened flap and speed brake modifications encouraged further exploration of the X-4's potential. The balsa wood strips made a comeback, this time installed not just on the flap and speed brake, but also on the elevons. On May 19, 1952, Walter Jones once again took the X-4 for a spin. Unfortunately, a setback occurred as one of the engines got damaged, causing a delay until August when they finally secured a replacement J-30 engine. Once the X-4 was airborne again, it showed significant improvements in stability, with nose-down trim changes being delayed from Mach 0.74 to Mach 0.91. But the journey wasn't without its bumps. Oscillations continued to plague the X-4 beyond Mach 0.91. On September 22, 1952, Scott Crossfield added another chapter to the X-4's story. He pushed the aircraft to its highest recorded speed of Mach 0.94. The results were as expected and frightening. Pitch oscillations remained, changing in frequency, and now affecting roll and yaw stability as well. In a final burst of experimentation, the balsa wood strips came off in May 1953, allowing a thorough study of the X-4's dynamic stability in its original form. Crossfield and John McKay took to the skies on September 29, 1953, marking the last chapter of the X-4's story with its 81st and final NACA flight. The X-4's legacy went beyond its sleek design and daring missions. It played a crucial role in proving that the swept-wing, semi-tailless design wasn't suitable for speeds approaching Mach 1. This discovery, though seemingly a dead end, actually opened the door to future advancements. With the arrival of computer fly-by-wire systems, semi-tailless designs found new life, leading to aircraft like the X-36, Have Blue, F-117A, and Bird of Prey, each a unique testament to the progress born from the lessons of the X-4. Throughout its turbulent journey in the skies, the X-4 achieved its mission to determine whether tailless supersonic planes were the future of aviation. Horizontal tails, unprepared for the chaos of transonic flight, could fall victim to shockwaves, threatening pitch control. Even after more than 60 years, the echoes of the X-4's legacy are still felt today. The idea of a tailless supersonic aircraft is still captivating, with the Northrop Grumman B-2, although also tailless, not yet able to surpass the speed of sound. For years, the X-4 faced the whims of pranksters at the Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs. Its small size, even smaller than the well-known Cessna 152, made it an easy target for late-night antics. Despite its rather undignified history, the Air Force decided it deserved a second chance, opting to recover the worn prototype for a thorough restoration. This restoration, though mainly cosmetic, was a meticulous effort to revive the old airframe. The plane was carefully taken apart, its parts examined, cleaned, and meticulously repainted. The once mighty Westinghouse J-30 turbojets are long gone, leaving behind a hollow shell that murmurs tales of aviation history. The partially intact cockpit, now shielded by a canopy, shows the scars of time, its plexiglass clouded by years of exposure to the relentless Colorado sun. In the early days, they relied on sandbags to keep the aircraft steady. Yet, over time, those bags gave in, bursting open and scattering their contents into every corner. Cleaning out the cockpit became a grueling chore, one of the toughest parts of bringing the plane back to life. The X-4, an experimental wonder, showcased the bold strides taken in the name of aerodynamics. It pushed the limits of what we thought possible in the quest for flight. And now, as the X-4 finds its home at the Air Force Flight Test Museum, it's more than just a restored piece of history. It's a silent testament to the grit and imagination of those who dared to push aviation into the great unknown.